Why do some people carry their heaviest burdens in complete silence? Why do they smile through the storm, help everyone around them, but never not once ask for help themselves? The answer isn't strength. It's something far more complicated and far more painful. If you've ever felt like you had to handle everything alone, if you've ever swallowed your pain because you didn't want to burden anyone, if people call you strong but you feel like you're barely holding it together inside, this is for you. This isn't about people who occasionally keep things private. This is about those who've made silence a survival mechanism. Those who carry grief, anxiety, depression, trauma all, while appearing perfectly fine to the outside world. Today, we're exploring what's really happening beneath that carefully maintained surface. Meet Emma. To everyone who knows her, she's the reliable one. The friend who always shows up. The daughter who never complains. The co-worker who handles everything with grace.
When someone needs help, Emma is there, listening, supporting, fixing, caring. But when Emma's relationship ended after 5 years, she told no one. When her father was diagnosed with cancer, she showed up to work the next day with the same smile.
When anxiety started stealing her sleep and depression made even getting out of bed feel impossible, she posted happy photos on social media and asked her friends about their lives instead. It wasn't that Emma didn't have people who cared. She did. It wasn't that she thought her problems didn't matter. Deep down, they were consuming her. It was something else entirely. Something she couldn't even explain to herself. Late at night, when the performance finally ended and she was alone, Emma would wonder why she was like this. Why she could give endlessly, but couldn't receive. Why she could hold space for everyone else's pain, but felt physically incapable of sharing her own. Why the thought of saying, "I'm not okay," felt more terrifying than continuing to suffer in silence. She wasn't being strong. She was being silent. And there's a profound difference between the two. If you recognize yourself in Emma's story, you're not alone. And what's happening inside you isn't a character flaw. It's a psychological pattern, one with deep roots and real reasons.
Let's start with where this pattern usually begins: childhood. Most people who never share their problems learn very early that their pain wasn't welcome. Not always, through obvious rejection. Sometimes it was subtle: a parent who was too overwhelmed with their own struggles. A household where emotions were treated as inconveniences.
A family culture where strength meant silence and vulnerability meant weakness. Maybe you cried once and were told to toughen up. Maybe you shared something that hurt you and watched it get minimized. That's nothing to be upset about. Or, other people have it worse. Maybe you saw what happened when others in your family showed need the size, the frustration, the burden it created. And you decided right then, I will never be that kind of problem. So you learned to manage alone. You learned to smile through it. You learned that love and acceptance came with a condition. Don't be too much. Don't need too much. Don't need too much. And here's what most people don't realize. That childhood decision doesn't just affect childhood. It becomes the blueprint for every relationship, every friendship, every connection you have for the rest of your life. Fast forward to adulthood. That early conditioning has solidified into something psychologists call compulsive self-reliance. It's not confidence. It's not independence. It's a defense mechanism disguised as strength. You've built your entire identity around not needing anyone, around being the helper, never the helped, around being strong, capable, together, even when you're falling apart inside. Because somewhere deep in your psychology, there's a belief that if you show your struggles, people will leave. They'll see you as weak, as needy, as too much. But here's what's really happening beneath that belief. It's not really about other people at all. It's about control. When you share a problem, you lose control of it. It exists outside your mind now. Someone else knows.
Someone else has an opinion. Someone else might try to fix it, or worse, might not care. Keeping your struggles private keeps them contained, manageable, yours alone. There's also something else at play, something darker. Many people who never share their problems are carrying a deep, often unconscious belief that they don't deserve help, that their pain isn't valid enough,
that everyone else's struggles are more important, more real, more worthy of attention. You'll listen to a friend talk about stress at work for an hour, but when they ask how you're doing, you say, "I'm good," even though you haven't slept properly in weeks. Why? because their stress feels legitimate to you, but yours doesn't. Theirs deserves space. Yours should be handled quietly. Living this way is exhausting. Let's be clear about that. You're not just dealing with your problems, you're also expending enormous energy hiding them. Every "I'm fine" when you're not is a small act of self-betrayal. Every smile you force is a piece of your authenticity you're trading for acceptance. Every time you show up for others while ignoring your own needs, you're teaching your nervous system that your pain doesn't matter, and your body keeps the score. The anxiety that appears out of nowhere, the depression that you can't explain because you've never acknowledged what you're carrying, the physical symptoms, the headaches, the exhaustion, the illness that are your body's way of screaming what your mouth won't say. You become so good at the performance that sometimes even you forget it's a performance. You start to believe your own "I'm fine." You lose touch with what you actually feel because you've spent so long telling yourself and everyone else that you're okay. But here's the truth you already know. Even if you can't say it out loud, you're not fine. And pretending to be fine while you're breaking inside isn't strength, it's self-abandonment. Here's one of the cruelest ironies of this pattern. People who never share their problems are often surrounded by people yet feel completely alone. You have friends, you have family.
You have people who would help if they knew, but they don't know, and you can't tell them. So you exist in this strange, painful paradox where you're simultaneously connected and isolated, seen and invisible, loved and utterly alone with your pain. And then there's the resentment that builds, quiet, unspoken resentment. You're there for everyone. You show up, you listen, you help. But where is everyone when you need them? Except they don't know you need them. You've never told them. You've never given them the chance to show up for you the way you show up for them. So the resentment grows toward them for not noticing, toward yourself for not speaking, toward the whole impossible situation you've created where you need connection but can't allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to have it. Let's go deeper. What are you really afraid of? On the surface, it's rejection. It's being too much. It's burdening others. But beneath that, there's often something more terrifying. The fear that if you share your problems and nothing changes, that's confirmation of your worst fear. That you really are alone. That your pain really doesn't matter. That nobody really cares. As long as you don't share, you can still tell yourself, well, if I did tell someone, they'd probably help. There's still hope in the silence.
But if you share and get dismissed, if you share and people don't show up the way you've shown up for them, that hope dies. So silence becomes safer than disappointment. Isolation becomes safer than rejection. Suffering alone becomes safer than the risk of suffering while being seen and still being alone.
There's also this: some people who never share their problems are protecting a carefully constructed image. If you're the strong one, the reliable one, the one who has it together, sharing your struggles threatens that identity. It makes you human, flawed, vulnerable. And maybe you've gotten so much validation from being strong that you can't imagine who you'd be if you weren't.
The cost of this pattern is higher than most people realize. Relationships stay surface level because you never let anyone truly see you. Friendships feel one-sided because they only know the version of you that gives, never the version that needs. Intimacy becomes impossible because intimacy requires vulnerability, and you've trained yourself to never be vulnerable. You miss out on genuine connection, not because people don't care, but because they don't know. They don't know you're struggling. They don't know you need support. They don't know the weight you're carrying because you've become so skilled at hiding it, and perhaps most painfully, you lose yourself. When you spend years, maybe decades, performing strength while hiding pain, you forget who you are beneath the performance. You forget what you actually feel, what you actually need, what you're actually experiencing. You become a stranger to yourself. Here's what nobody tells you about sharing your problems. It's not weakness, it's one of the bravest things you can do. It takes more courage to say, "I'm not okay," than it does to pretend you are. It takes more strength to ask for help than it does to suffer alone. It takes more trust to be vulnerable than it does to stay hidden. The people who never share their problems aren't weak for struggling. They're exhausted from carrying everything alone, and they're terrified of a world that told them, in 1,000 small ways, that their pain wasn't welcome. But here's what you need to know. The right people won't see your vulnerability as weakness. They'll see it as trust, as intimacy, as the gift it actually is. The gift of letting them in, of letting them matter to you the way you matter to them. If this is you, if you recognize yourself in this pattern, I want you to know something. You're not broken. You learned to protect yourself in the only way that felt safe. You learned that silence was survival. And for a time, maybe it was. But you are not that child anymore. You are not in that environment where your needs weren't welcome. And the people in your life now are not the people who taught you that your pain was a burden. Unlearning this pattern doesn't happen overnight. It's not about suddenly sharing everything with everyone. It's about small steps. It's about choosing one person, one safe person, and sharing one small thing. Not your deepest trauma, not your biggest fear, just something real, something true. It's about noticing when you say, I'm fine, and asking yourself, am I actually fine, or am I performing? It's about recognizing that needing support doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. It's about understanding that the people who truly love you want to know you, all of you, not just the strong parts. You've spent so long being the person everyone can lean on. You've been strong for everyone else. Maybe it's time to let someone be strong for you, not because you can't handle it alone. You've proven you can, but because you don't have to. Your problems are not a burden. Your pain is not too much, and you are not alone, even though you've convinced yourself you have to be. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be supported. You deserve the same compassion you've given so freely to everyone else. You always have.